There is a perfect example of motherhood out there. We've all felt its presence. It lingers in our social media feed, in the products we buy, the answers to the questions we research. Even though we know it's not real, we feel it spotlight what we could be doing better.
Join two best friends as they step off the stage of motherhood and go behind the scenes with moms from different walks of life.
The Momcult Podcast. Real moms, real talk, real tired.
Welcome to Momcult Podcast after the episode with Jenny Black.
Hey, Sarah.
I like hearing your intro voice.
These microphones just do it to me.
I can see you like gearing up for it. Welcome. And then trying to play it cool once the words come out of your mouth.
This is actually how I talk.
Yeah. I have it all together. All right, Jen, what did you think about
We're starting.
the episode with Alexis?
So the first weird thing was that I know Alexis, but
That's
her
right.
voice, because I've known her since she was in second grade. Or no, fifth grade.
Fourth. I just want to give a shout out to all the grades.
That's the most important detail to get down in this.
Shout out for
She has the same voice as Brandon's girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was a weird sensation. I don't know. It was just weird.
I haven't met her yet or spoken to her, so I don't even know.
That's what she sounds like.
Okay. I like her already then.
So let's see. Where do we want to start? The first note that I have is things are so temporary in this gig. Who says that?
Because,
oh my gosh. That is so good.
Gig.
That is such a good line. Oh, because you were talking about yourself, like having, like,
We were doing the check-in.
Oh, yeah.
having a hard time, but I'm not going to have a hard time for very long because that's how it is. But man, things are so temporary in this gig. Like as soon as you figure it out, let's pretend that could happen. I don't think I've ever heard of that happening, that you could figure it out and be like, oh, I'm on top of this. I've got it.
Right.
But then like somebody always has a cold, or there's a death in the family, or a pandemic. Like there's never, like, everything is temporary in this gig. I just feel like what is it we're all trying, like, if that's true, if that's like the most true thing, then what is it we're all trying? Is this just an illusion?
What stability are we trying to find?
Right. What did we watch
It
or
doesn't
hear?
exist.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
And yet we're all like, and I need to get back to what? Where have you ever seen that?
There have been moments. I've had a couple where like everything aligns. One time I can think of exactly the moment. Actually, I was reading Harry Potter to Parker Who's Two, which doesn't make any sense. And I had this feeling in this moment and how everything just felt like, oh, this is exactly right. And then that was like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I think we just have it backwards.
That's a win.
We just have it backwards. Like life is, everything is temporary, which we already know in general.
But we don't know.
We're still like pining for some stability always.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's all ridiculous. And then what we should be is like, oh, look at that moment.
We're having a moment. We found it. We know it's not going to last long, but here it is.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I did feel like that in that moment. Like, this is, whoa.
Yeah. Well, so maybe that's what our conversations should be. Like when we're talking to other moms, is like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe it. I had a good moment. You're not going to believe what happened to me today.
You're not going to believe what happened to me 2 weeks ago for 3 minutes. It was phenomenal. It made it all worth it, honestly, you know? I'm still living off that 3 minutes that my kid was looking in my eyes and I started crying.
But like that, no, I won't go on about it. But listen, guys, it was amazing.
I believe you. It's the only reason any of us are still here. Yeah, Sarah, I took a bunch of notes off of what you said. So you were talking about Eric being out of town and that he does do a lot of stuff, but you didn't realize you don't even need him to do that stuff.
Just the presence of feeling not in it alone.
Yes.
Whoa. I wouldn't say I just meant I don't have to have that to have the space that it creates to have like a person that comes in and goes like talks to him for 5. But no, I need that bath time.
Right. You do.
Like desperately. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true.
I know that's not what you meant. He's not going to listen and go, well, but just the anxiety I feel at the thought of it is. Anyway, carry on. I won't keep stopping you. My God, stop.
That's what you're here for.
Jesus.
It's a conversation. So I was remembering when my kids were little and my next door neighbor and I were at home all day by ourselves. And then we were next door to each other at home by ourselves. And just that feeling of having another another adult human who could just look over at you and like be exasperated with you. Like nothing, they couldn't even do anything about it, but just being there and just remember feeling like that's all I needed. Like that's really all I needed.
Yeah. I got a facial today from Shannon at Profile Skin Studios. This is a little plug for her.
What is
Everyone should go and get a facial.
Instagram? Not that.
I think it's just Profile Skin Studio.
Yeah.
But we were talking about that, about how like she was saying she had been feeling just overwhelmed and kind of over it. And she's like, I'll go to text someone, like another mom. And then I stop myself because I don't want to like explain anything. I don't want to talk more than just like, I just want to say what I want to say. And then, I don't know, just have something to vent out or feel like you're sharing it with somebody that knows what you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, it's just so important to have those mom friends where you could get together, but you don't have to feel like you have to small talk or entertain each other. It's like, I just want another human next to me that knows how I'm feeling. And we don't really even have to talk about it if we don't want to. But having someone to share in your lows.
Of one of my friends texting me, my mother-in-law just fed the baby chicken tenders. That's all the text said.
Eric's, I want to say, paternal grandmother, when he was only on milk still, and I may be getting this wrong, but his mom tells a story. I'm going to throw her under the bus, right under the bus.
That's where we all are, Sarah.
Right. Yeah, welcome.
Join us.
Fed him mashed potatoes and gravy, like he never had solid food before. After they went on a date, and he was like, oh, he loved it.
And then he just shit his pants for the next 2 days.
Yeah. He lived, but I actually, retelling the story, I'm not as triggered by it, but she was telling me that in the moment where I was like, okay, I'm still like that. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm so OCD about every little thing, like everything he eats, everything, especially when he was eating not solid foods. So,
how does Eric feel about mashed potatoes and gravy now?
See, that's why you're here. It's such a good question.
Okay, so I don't know what perspective you guys will answer this from, but I thought it was an interesting idea when Alexis was talking about asking her son what his opinions were about the new school that he was, or new schools. And so it just made me think of like all the stories of my kids growing up and when to know when it's time to bring them into a decision and how much power they have in those decisions and when that's really empowering for them and like, oh, we're all in this together, and when it's like, no, we're making this decision. You don't have to worry about that. You're the kid here. I just wondered what y'all's thoughts were about that.
I don't know. I mean, Ava's definitely old enough to have some input. She's got lots of ideas. I'm probably in the middle of trying to figure that out, like just on decision basis.
Well, also kid basis, because with Ava, you could see that every single day until she turns 18, you're going to be having to say, I'm sorry, I'm the parent. We're the ones making the decision, right? Where with some other kids, you're balancing out something. Whatever they come with.
Again, he's only 2. I don't need to keep saying that. But we're potentially starting a new 2-day-a-week program that's like a, daycare school kind of situation this next week. And I'm a little, like, my codependency is creeping out. And so I'm, like, sentimental and going, oh, this is the last time he'll be at home. And they're like, you can start December 1st or you can start, now. And I'm like,
don't worry, he'll be home a lot.
Right. He'll still be right. It's like, what am I even doing? The point is, I keep saying, do you want to start school next week? Because I want him to say yes. Right. Instead of me having to make the decision. And he said no the first couple of times, and now he's saying yes. So,
do you remember as a kid being included or not included in decisions about you?
Yes. Like, well, not in like a great healthy way, but I was going to daycare and they were taking me and everything was fun, but I didn't want to go. And my dad took me one day and I just lost it crying, and he didn't make me go, and then I never went back.
Oh, Sarah.
Which probably wasn't the best thing for me. It's like, oh, I'm so awkward.
The first thing that came to my mind, which I don't even know if this counts, was when you got proposed to, and I was the only one that in the family that didn't know. I remember being upset that I was left out of that.
Yeah.
Because they were worried I would say something. But I was Ava's age.
That's so crazy.
But I can also, I can
little.
see her struggling. I could picture her struggling with that.
Now you've gotten a whole new
or
perspective
being like,
on it,
something's happening tonight. And be like, no, that counts. Stop.
But I didn't say.
I didn't say what it was.
I think that your inside self deserves a lot more credit than your outside self maybe had earned.
Yeah.
But your inside self is like,
give me some credit,
right, exactly.
everybody.
Okay, so when I was maybe a freshman in high school, I'd signed up to go to this wilderness trek camp, like go live in the wilderness for 2 weeks with this group of people. And I just got really scared and freaked out right at the end. And mom and dad, well, no, like I hadn't left yet.
Oh, at the
end.
What do you mean at the end?
Like I hadn't gone on the trip. Like it was time to go on the trip.
Okay.
Like the next day we were supposed to leave, and I freaked out.
So at the beginning of the trip.
It wasn't one of those things like Paris Hilton when they come grab you in the middle of the night and take you.
Right.
No, not like that. Okay.
So I just, was crying. I can't go. I made up a bunch of things that why I didn't want to go. And they didn't make me. And like, I think they should have made me. And so just that point, and then just connecting to that as a parent and watching your kid and going like, is this the time I honor what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Or is this the time I say, I know something more than you know, and I'm going to push you through it. Okay, so she was talking about this. I think this has come up with every single parent I've ever talked to. It's the idea of when your kid's in a school situation and you're like, is this the right school? Was this the right place for them? They're not happy or whatever. So I think that's a really important conversation, because knowing the balance of when to build up your child's resilience skills versus changing your child's environment. And again, paying close enough attention that you can trust your intuition and like your kid and yourself enough to know, okay, this is the time you're going to have to tough this out. I mean, it's really the same as the other conversation. Or this is the time that I'm going to do my darndest to move the situation so that I could better support you.
Yeah.
And I've seen, both things happen, right? Parents will take their kids out and put them in a different school, and the same issues are still there because it's issues that the kid's going to have to work on no matter what. And then I've seen other times where a kid's taken out and they come back to life, and they get in an environment where it's just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how bad it was until I'm seeing them in the environment that's right for them, and they're doing so well. But I have a philosophy about this.
Of course you do.
Of course. It's called the Thanksgiving philosophy.
Oh.
Timely.
Wow.
Timely, right? So when our family moved here, right at the beginning of the school year in August, so I was a junior in high school, and I was in excruciating pain, like having left all my friends and just the difficulty of trying to make new friends. And it's such a culture shock of moving from Texas to here at that time in the early 90s.
Very now.
Right.
Very hip.
Right. Oh, even my outfits from the 90s there wouldn't be cool now. So I was very, very, very sad. And of course, back in those days, there was no like such thing as like, oh, my kid's grieving. Right. Or we should take them to therapy. It was just like,
get over it.
Something's wrong with my daughter. So mom and dad were worried about me, and they talked to a guy at church, just a guy visiting at church, and they're like, we don't know what to do. She hates the school. She hates it here. She doesn't have any friends, whatever. And he said, don't worry about her until Thanksgiving. If she still feels this way after Thanksgiving, then start seeing what else that you could do. And so they waited. And after Thanksgiving, like, I was dating, I had friends, I was like, I was doing great. I was doing awesome. So I applied that to my kids' entire school life. Every time that we would start a new school or they'd have a new teacher, and you're just sitting there like, I don't like this teacher. I don't like how she did that. I'm like, my kid's really crying every single day for the first 2 weeks of school. Like, do I need to go talk to somebody? And I made a commitment that I would never go talk to a teacher or ask for any changes until after Thanksgiving. And out of all of their years of school, I never ended up doing it.
Wow.
Nice.
Every single time it worked out. So I just think it's a great.
Because fall break probably isn't like, it's a little too
soon.
Close into school starting. Yeah.
That has been so helpful. That was so helpful. It's just this simple guiding principle that was like, this is going to work itself out or it's not going to work itself out.
It's a good one.
And just again, with my kids being the ages that they are now, which is 22 and 20, you cannot underestimate the importance of resilience. As much as possible that you can not remove obstacles from your child's life, but help them to get through the obstacles. It's like, that is the secret. That is like, it might be the number one parenting secret that you could know. And so when they do have an awful teacher, or when they do have a friend that's mean to them, or a class that they're not doing well in, the skill set that they're developing as a first grader is the exact same skill set they have to build as a 25-year-old if they haven't done it. So it's the best investment. Like, it keeps giving and giving and giving to your kids.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Well, it makes
sounds good.
It makes you. I mean, because the truth is that means you don't have to control their world anymore.
Yeah, no, totally.
You're done controlling their environment.
You mean if you don't think of it like I have to take everything difficult out of the way?
Yeah.
Like the book that I still haven't finished, but Blessing of the Skin Knee.
Yes,
Is that a good? Yeah. Literally in my notes is stop sucking teeth, and I keep doing it right now.
Sucking your teeth.
Suck your teeth.
Oh my God, cut that. Sounds awful.
What else you got in those notes?
Some of them are funny. Well, some of them actually, the literal first one is don't mention the notes you took. This is a lot of like, talking myself up is the first bit.
You got this, Sarah.
Then there's the part that I know you're going to touch on. I don't want to like steal that thunder. And then
do you have written down to like not steal her?
Jenny's thunder.
Remember, don't steal thunder from Jenny.
I think I'm jumping. I think I'll be jumping ahead. But I bet you don't have this written down. I'm just noting. You mentioned how like the clothes. Well, you're probably going to mention that. I'm going to wait.
Well, you're allowed to bring something up.
We can bring it back.
It doesn't have to be her.
Oh, you can jump down. All right.
Yeah. You can change the power dynamic a little bit.
You got the power, girl.
Okay.
I share my power with you.
Thank you.
She's sitting up straight now. Shoulders back. We got a whole new Sarah.
I've been working on my posture. It says work on posture. Roommates, whenever you had roommates with the first baby, I was like, I don't know how you did that. And just thinking about how mad I get at literally nobody being in our house. And
I felt like that moment, that one sentence that just kind of just went along the way. I was like, that was a like pause it, and then for like 2 years be like, okay, that's the girl who's doing this podcast. Like, no one can have roommates and a newborn. That's the most, unless they're a nanny. Like, that's the most awful thing I've ever heard. And like, it was just normal for you.
It wasn't the best, yeah.
Like, yeah, we had roommates. We had a newborn.
You seemed very calm. I mean, you did start something called Momcult, like to have support system and all that stuff. So
yeah,
that's why we are where we are.
Desperate times.
Yeah.
Okay, so then just the whole concept of birth stories.
Yeah.
Wow. That was intense.
Has that always been a thing?
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, no. I think that's like internet. Internet and a baby show. Remember there was a baby
on TLC?
Mm-hmm. Oh. That was probably the beginning.
Yeah, what were those
Baby
called?
Story?
Baby Story, Marriage Story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I would watch, me and Mom would watch all of those.
Yeah.
And then Trading Spaces.
Or also, I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant or something. Oh. That's something we should do, Pop Culture Corner.
But that was like, just hearing her birth story, I was like, wow, how helpful is it to hear someone else's birth story? Not like for their story, but for your own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's wonderful to hear other people's stories. But for your own, like, if you're trying to figure out what's my birth going to be like?
Yeah.
And everyone says it. Again, no two births are ever the same. And yet, there's still this idea that there is this way birth is supposed to go. And, I mean, my goodness. That was so traumatic. It was traumatic to listen to.
Yeah.
That was so intense. How amazing. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about hearing other people's birth stories? Or even thinking about your own birth stories? Like, I don't even remember thinking about mine after.
Well, you can't. I mean, the thing is like
it wasn't a thing I narrated in my head.
Right. I remember sitting around a table. I had some friends that were all pregnant at the same time. And I was like, come over, let's have dinner so you guys can all get to know it. They all kind of knew each other. It's like, get to know each other better. And the main topic of conversation was how stressed they all were about how the birth was going to go and what it was going to be like and how it was going to go down. And I'm the only one who's already had a kid, and I'm like, I don't even have the amount of things to think about after the birth.
Right.
Like, is so overwhelming and so much and so all-encompassing that's almost the last.
Right.
That's the last thing. Like,
You know what it is? I just figured it out as you
What?
said it. Something in us instinctually knows this is the last thing I'm ever going to be able to control. So I'm just putting all.
And guess
of
what?
my-
You can't.
But let me hold on to the illusion
But I'm
a little bit
I'm really
longer.
gonna believe this is gonna go
And
down the way I picture
You don't think
it.
further than that,
Right.
Because you know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. So you're saying on the second kid that you weren't so obsessed with it leading up to? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I mean, I was still
Nerves.
the curiosity is
Right.
there, the nerves are there, the knowing I was going to try to do it natural
Right.
was the fear was definitely there, and I was just so ready for it to start unfolding so that I could just I was just ready to move into the next, like let's start this, because 9 months is just a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're
Especially when you're quarantined.
oh gosh,
Yeah, jeez.
just give me some alcohol, please. But even with Ava, I don't know. That's not my personality to try to control a scenario anyway. Like, I'm definitely more of a follower. So I find comfort in knowing that the people around me know what they're doing and that I can just trust those people. So I only had like one instance with my birth with Ava where I asked a question to just kind of clarify something instead of just being like, yeah, sure, whatever. I think they wanted to go ahead and give me the epidural because my blood pressure was really high. And I just said, am I far enough along where it's going to slow things down? Or, or maybe I asked him, like, could you just call my doctor and ask if he agrees, then great. Because he was the person that I had talked with the most.
What ended
You
up
can't really
happening?
see past that. I feel like when you're pregnant, like that's
Right,
the
it's
final
all
chapter.
thought
Like,
about.
that's
Right.
the end
Yeah.
before the next
Right.
chapter
Right.
begins. And you can't really fathom, like, picturing a baby in this empty crib in your nursery that's been there for a month or a couple weeks or whatever. You have all this space ready in the car seat in your car, but there's no baby in it yet. And you're like, can't even picture the baby because you don't know what the baby's going to look like and how it's going to be a combination of both of you. So everything is so floating in the air that all you can really think about or focus on is
The birth.
how is this all going to go down?
Yeah. I'm going to get this out of me.
And when's it going to start happening? And when am I going to start feeling the contractions and,
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah.
And what am I going to make my husband do?
Yeah.
What am I going to be angry at him for? Yeah, Alexis said the quote, I was not prepared for ... And I just thought, I wrote that down and I was like, again, that's another one of those things. That has to be a myth. Like, what part of any of this could we be prepared for? So it's something different, because it's not like, oh, I went to school for this. Now
it's
I'm
just being a
prepared.
woman. Like she said, her resentment towards her body was all about, my body's supposed to know how to do this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to worry about this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. People have been doing this for thousands of years. Women in rice paddies just squat down and have the baby and carry it away. Okay. Thanks.
Right.
Good for you.
Right.
I don't know that this even, but like after I had him, and I didn't do it naturally. I didn't move basically for 9 months, and I gained a lot of weight, and I felt, just I wasn't in shape, and I like to be in shape, and that's just I was a different version of myself when I was pregnant, and when I had him, how difficult it was to push and like feeling those things, or not really feeling them because I had an epidural, but also being like, I don't want to do this like this again. And I don't know that we'll have another kid, but we would like to. So if we are able to, not that we're, whatever, you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Do you get what I'm saying though? Like the listeners get it. Don't know. I don't know. There's no like subtext. I just mean, if we are blessed with another baby,
Right.
I have been preparing for that like since that day. I've been like pelvic floor, strengthening like every day that I do workouts. I think about that, and I don't know if that plays into this. Birth is,
it's crazy.
That was maybe cut that. I don't know. I just felt like saying it. I don't know that it's podcast worthy, but there you go.
I loved that, and I feel like it's a very important thing that she brought up about that coworker telling her, you are going to want to shake the baby, that is a normal experience. And I was just thinking about the shadow side of our personalities, you know, that we all have
the
that
darkness
side, or that more primal side.
So is shadow sides, is that like true self and getting out of true self and those like family systems?
It's just going to be a part of, it's Jung, for Carl Jung's came up with that.
Right. That's what I meant.
But I think it's just a matter of acknowledging that you're not perfect. You're not going to have the right response all the time. And that you don't even have to be exhausted for that to be true. But then, obviously, the less resources you have, the more more likely you are to experience that.
Right.
But I work with a lot of clients who have kind of narcissistic or self-centered moms. And I was thinking about how that's one of the things that they are in the most pain about is I just want her to know she's not perfect. I just want her to be aware that she has bad motives or whatever. Like, it's not that they want her to be perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was just thinking about that idea of, and Joy's always been so good at just owning your shadow parts. You're just like, yeah, that's how we all are. That's how it is.
I don't know if Jeremy would agree with that, but okay. I'll take it.
So I just think that is worth talking about, that if it's not just that you had that thought and that's okay and that's normal, but it's more if you're not having that, or if you're not aware that you're having that thought, that would be more concerning.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Like if you're in denial that you have those feelings.
And that's when people end up doing things because they're pretending it's not a part of their personality, so there's no way to kind of care for it or have a check-in with yourself of, oh, love, what's going on? Right. One of the things that I do with clients all the time, I don't think I've done this yet with the resources and challenges. Have we talked about this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi is the father of the concept of flow. When we talk about flow, we talk about how you get in the zone and you could just do something for hours. You lose time and you forget to eat. You're just
present.
You're just completely present in an activity, doing some sort of activity. And that was discovered by Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, which I'm so proud of being able to pronounce his name.
I'm really impressed. I was just impressed the second time. I was like, is she going to say it exactly the same way?
If you saw it spelled, you'd be like, so impressed.
You should see how I spelled it in my notes.
I gave myself little, I took time and had a little lesson because I talk about this a lot. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever learned. So he was a child and was noticing that soldiers, like the soldiers that we would call having PTSD. So these soldiers would come home and they were not okay. And he's like, everybody knew, oh, they were in the war, right? So they weren't even calling it PTSD, but they knew they had traumatic situations. And he said, for some reason, like as a 10-year-old kid, he was like, but what about the soldiers that are okay? Why are they okay? And he became fascinated with why were they okay? They had the same experiences. Mm-hmm. So he ended up eventually coming to America. I can't remember where he was because it was the only country that was studying psychology at that time, and started learning more about what makes people do well. So he was kind of the beginning of positive psychology, and studied all these people who had been through trauma who were really healthy, and went and interviewed them and studied their daily life. And he found that all of them had an activity that they did regularly that put them into this place of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it could have even been their work. It could have been, a bricklayer. But just that their mind would get to that place.
Get a break.
And so he had the chart that he made is basically you have challenges going up the chart, like on the y-axis, and resources on the x-axis. Mm-hmm. And that when your resources and your challenges are increasing at the same pace, that's what causes you to enter into a state of flow. Mm. So it's hard, and you're like, I've never done this before, but wait, I think I can. So it's kind of like your mind has to puzzle a little, but it can solve it. And so there's this little and your brain gets these hits. It gets dopamine, but also it starts actually whatever chemicals happen during the process of flow actually heal the brain. So the trauma that's in the brain is getting healed by this work. So I'm saying that because
she was talking about pottery.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying it because you can use that with any moment that you're getting stressed.
Yeah.
Right.
So use the example of anxiety. Anxiety exists because your challenges are outpacing your resources, right? Or boredom exists when your resources are outpacing your challenges. And so it's this kind of secret math that you can do when you're like, wait, you stop. Like, I'm getting stressed out. What's going on? You can check in with yourself and be like, I have two options here. I can reduce my challenges or increase my resources. And that's this isn't about me not being good enough. This isn't about me like, okay, I need more sleep. I need to ask for help. I need to lower my expectations for this birthday party, whatever. So anyway, that has been a life-changing model for me.
That's
life-changing.
huge.
Because it's not about you anymore. It's not about how you're incompetent you are.
Right. Or lazy, or it forces you to stop, just to kind of turn off your self-critic and be more observant of yourself on the outside and be like, okay, this is a doable thing to fix. I think I'm pretty good at doing that, but for me, I still have a hard time. I'll feel like I need to be the one to solve all the things, and I'll end up I'm better at delegating or finding someone who is good at that can help me with it. But there'll be a little bit of that's like, oh, you phoned it in. Now you're just putting your burden on somebody else.
And so what would it mean in this context?
Well, it would just be it doesn't matter. That's not the point. If it's still a resource, that person is still a resource to me. That friendship is a resource. And so I'm still doing what I need to do, even though...
Which is not the opposite of phoning it in.
Right. I love that. I'm really excited about it. I feels like I have... Well, two things. Sometimes if I'm using resources and I feel that clicking place, to have a name for that and to know what that is, I love that. And being able to do that math. And then also when I feel I'm bogging down and don't know how to move forward, just having another name for that, increase resources. I mean, just the math thing. I don't know, for my specific own life.
I was thinking about parenting is the ultimate... You're solving puzzles all day long, right? He talks a lot about how you can turn anything into flow. It doesn't have to be my favorite activity that I've ever done. One example was that my dog kept getting into my trash can. And I'd get home and all the trash from the bathroom trash would be spread over. And he'd not done that. He'd started doing that in old age. So we had not ever made any... oh, of course your dog gets into your trash because it didn't have a lid on it. It was just an open trash. So the idea of flow is you start making this a game you're trying to solve instead of something that's frustrating you. So we first started with okay, we're going to get a trash can that has a lid on it, right? The little stool thing, or the thing you step on that pops up. And he figured out, I don't know how he got into it, nosed it up or whatever, pulled it out. And I was like, okay, what can I do? And finally, after way too many tries, I just turned it around. So the lid opened the opposite way. But that whole process ended up kind of being I'm going to, I felt like I was
instead of getting emotionally invested in it, because that I feel is kind of paralyzing.
Yes. Yeah. It felt more like I was, I don't know, a lot of times when I'm in a really difficult situation, I'm like, you pay money to go to the escape game to have fun getting out of situations. Pretend this is escape game right now. You've got to figure this out. And that process by itself moves you into the state of flow.
Right.
So parenting is giving you 100 opportunities every day to be like, maybe there's another way I could look at this or how we could do, which I feel like Dad has always been so good at that. And then I did just want to tell a story of when Avery was 4. And I don't know what awfulness she was this whole day, but it was awful. It was just awful after awful after awful. Finally gotten her to bed. I'd finally sat down and was watching my show and getting my food. And she came out and just started I thought it was over. It had maybe even been an hour that was okay.
Oh, you've really had time to settle. That's the worst.
Right. And she came back out, and I feel like she just, whatever it was over the top. She was just yelling in my face. And I'm laying on the couch. And I remember looking at her and thinking, the best thing I'm ever going to do with my entire life is not beat you right now.
Not punch you in the face.
It is my grandest accomplishment. And no one is going to be impressed.
No one's going to give me credit.
No one is ever going to give me a pat on the back for not hurting my child. And I just remember being devastated by that.
Yeah.
But it also made me think, like, yeah, I should have, right? Like, way to go, Jenny. Good job.
Good job.
Look at that self-control.
See you.
Wow. And then about the pottery. So, which was so fun to even know about that resource here in Nashville. Brene Brown said in all her research that unused creativity becomes rage and depression.
Ooh.
So it's
Thank
not...
goodness I'm in my acting class.
Right. So it's no joke.
That's
It
all
is
I
no
got.
joke. So if rage and depression are surfacing in your regularly, then you do everything you can to find a creative outlet.
She mentioned EMDR. What are your thoughts on EMDR?
I think EMDR is really great, and I think it's had a pretty significant wave of popularity, and it has really great results. The therapists that I'm working with are feeling like basically trust your therapist, like to say if that would be the best thing for you or not.
Like people are asking for it because it's popular.
And not only asking for it, but then once they get it and they don't like it, they think, oh, I didn't get what I was looking for. And I personally practice something called brain spotting, which is actually a kind of a grandchild of EMDR. And right now, at least, the therapists that are working with that feel like that it's a lot more fluid and easy to use with people. And both have really, really great results. But EMDR tends to work, like match people or really not. Like once they do it, they're like, yeah, I didn't like that. Or they're like, I did that. I loved it.